Did Adam Rosendorf tell the truth when he testified in the Elizabeth Holmes trial? Did Adam Rosendorf feel manipulated by the government when he testified in the Elizabeth Holmes trial? Those are two of the questions that we're going to find the answers to in the upcoming hearing, because the judge just granted Elizabeth Holmes' request for a hearing for a new trial. It's a big win for Elizabeth Holmes because these hearings are not easy to get. So, hi there. I'm Michelle Hagan. I'm a legal analyst and a former prosecutor. You may recognize me because I've provided a lot of legal analysis on the Elizabeth Holmes case. So I want to say thank you to all of those who have subscribed. Welcome to the new subscribers. Please do support my work by subscribing, hit that like button, share these videos, and please do leave a comment or question because I want to know what your analysis is. Because this video is simply my opinion and my analysis. Okay, and it's for education and information purposes. Oh, and thank you to all of those who have contributed to me making these videos. I'll put a PayPal link in the description box below the video. Okay, so in case you just popped onto this channel, let me give you a little background. Elizabeth Holmes was convicted in January of 2022 of 4 counts of wire fraud. She's looking at a sentence of 20 years. It's in judge's discretion what the sentence will be. She was convicted of 1 count of conspiring with Sunny Balwani to defraud investors, and then 3 counts of defrauding individual investors. Sunny Balwani was the COO of Theranos. He was tried separately and he was convicted on all counts. Elizabeth Holmes was the CEO of Theranos, a blood testing company. Okay, so she filed 3 motions for a new trial. One based on the database, the missing database. Another one based on the government's portrayal of the influence of Sunny Balwani. The defense claims they characterized their relationship differently in the Holmes trial and in the Balwani trial. Therefore, she is entitled to a new trial. Well, the judge in the hearing this morning granted the new trial based on the 3rd motion, which were the statements made by Adam Rosendorf, who was a lab director at Theranos and one of the lead government witnesses in the trial against Elizabeth Holmes. Adam Rosendorf showed up 8 months after the verdict in August of 2022 at Elizabeth Holmes's home. He wanted to talk to her. Based on the statements that he purportedly made to William Evans, the partner of Elizabeth Holmes, who intercepted Adam Rosendorf as he was walking towards the front door. He made several statements, and I'll talk to you about those at the end of the video. He made several statements to William Evans, which are the basis, the reasons why the defense is asking for a new trial and a hearing. And they just got the hearing. And guess who's going to be subpoenaed to testify at this hearing? Adam Rosendorf. The hearing will take place on October 17th at 9 a.m. October 17th was the original date of the sentencing of Elizabeth Holmes. That's now going to be continued. Sometime in November to January, there were several dates that the judge offered this morning for the potential sentencing, but both sides need to confer and decide which date would work. So we're going to find out what the new sentencing date is for Elizabeth Holmes. So now let me talk to you about what's going to happen at this hearing. It's an evidentiary hearing. Evidentiary hearing means evidence. Evidentiary, evidence, okay? So that means that the defense has an opportunity to put evidence on. That means Adam Rosendorf will be testifying. The judge is limiting this hearing He doesn't want to have a recross of Adam Rosendorf, who testified for days in the trial. I watched his testimony. It's going to be limited to basically two questions, because what the defense is arguing is the statements that Rosendorf made, and he also made a subsequent declaration based on the statements that William Evans said that he made in the driveway. Adam Rosendorf made a subsequent declaration where he stands by his testimony and that he's basically saying that he didn't lie, he's not recanting, he's standing by the testimony he made at Holmes's trial. But what the defense is saying is that those statements possibly show that there was misconduct by the government. And the judge, based on those allegations, the judge has, serious concerns, as any judge would have, if there's any possibility of any government misconduct. Okay, now again, these are just allegations, but I'll read you the statements that were made. So stay with me there, but I just wanted to go over what's going to happen at the hearing is Adam Rosendorf will testify. The defense will likely put him on to show the statements, or I'm sorry, the government, it depends on who puts him on first, but he will testify. He's going to, the cross-examination of Adam Rosendorf will be, did he make these statements in the driveway? And to find out the statements he made in the declaration. But the judge is limiting this hearing, limiting it. He doesn't want it to be a fishing expedition by the defense, right? That they're hunting for new information, some reason that they can use as an issue on appeal. He doesn't want it to be a fishing expedition. He wants to limit the hearing. And by the way, he's giving the hearing a hold 1 day for the hearing, based on basically these two questions. One, did Adam Rosendorf tell the truth at the trial of Elizabeth Holmes? And two, did Adam Rosendorf feel that he was manipulated by the government in his testimony in the Holmes case? The judge is going to give a full day. The court is going to, the hearing could take all day. All right. So I imagine what's going to happen is Adam Rosendorf will get on the stand. He'll probably explain what happened in the driveway and the statements, whether he made them or didn't make them to William Evans. It's not going to be, and the judge made this very clear, it's not going to be about what William Evans said, his recollection, versus Adam Rosendorf's recollection. No, it's not going to be that. It's going to be simply those two questions. Did Rosendorf tell the truth? Did Rosendorf feel that he was manipulated by the government? Okay, and that again goes to any possibility of any of those allegations of inappropriateness or misrepresentation of the testimony or giving false testimony, misrepresentations made by the government. All those allegations, okay? So on cross, he's going to be examined as to, did he make those statements in the driveway, I imagine? Was he telling the truth in the trial? Did he tell the truth? And, possibly what did he mean by these statements? And I'll read them to you. And some of them you may have a question about. What did Rosendorf mean by these statements? Why did he make these statements? Okay. Did he tell the truth? Was he manipulated? All right. So let me tell you what happened in the driveway of Elizabeth Holmes' residence. So on August 8th, 2022, so she was convicted in January, I think it was January 3rd. So what is that? 7 months later, on August 8th at 4:51 p.m., Adam Rosendorf left a voicemail. He first called one of the defense attorneys for Elizabeth Holmes, and he asked if he could set up a meeting between himself and Elizabeth Holmes. About an hour and 15 minutes later, approximately 6:05 p.m., Adam Rosendorf, who was the witness, who was a former lab director who testified to the, whether or not they were getting accurate results with the technology, the blood testing technology. He also testified to what happened in the lab, right? He showed up at approximately 6:05 p.m. on August 8th, and he purportedly made the following statements. So he said he tried to answer the questions honestly at Ms. Holmes' trial. but the government tried to make everyone look bad. Does that sound like misconduct by the government? The government made things seem worse than they were. Does that show any manipulation? He felt the government made things seem worse than they were. What did he mean by that? Everyone at Theranos was working hard to do something good and meaningful. He felt he had done something wrong. What does he mean by that? Apparently, in connection with Mrs. Holmes' trial. Does he mean he did something wrong, meaning he lied in his testimony, or that the government manipulated him, or is it his conscience? What does that mean? He felt that he had done something wrong. He wanted to talk to Miss Holmes. He thought a conversation with Miss Holmes would be healing for both of them. Both she and he were young at the time of the events, and the concerns were weighing on him to the point where he had difficulty sleeping. So those are I'll call them the driveway statements. Those statements were the basis for the reason that Elizabeth Holmes requested a new trial based on these statements. One of the arguments she's making is that they had, they were working hard to do something good. That negates any intent to defraud anyone. Maybe that's one thing. But the government tried to make everyone look bad. The government made things seem worse than they were. Does that show that there was any misconduct by the government? I don't know. But we're going to have the hearing. The judges ordered the hearing on the 17th of October to find out, what did Rosendorf mean by these statements? Was his testimony truthful at the Elizabeth Holmes trial? Did he feel manipulated in his testimony? Okay, those are serious concerns that the judge has. And any judge would have serious concerns if there's any allegations of prosecutorial misconduct. The judge is being cautious here, right? He's allowing the defense a limited opportunity to find out what happened, inquire as to Rosendorf's testimony, not do another cross-examination, not pit Rosendorf against Evans, not get Rosendorf's opinions of what he thinks about, the presentation of the case by either side, none of that. Just to find out whether he was truthful, to find out whether he was manipulated by the government. And the judge said, the issues raised are serious. So that's why the judge granted the hearing, this one limited hearing, this one shot that Elizabeth Holmes has at a new trial by this judge. Now, again, she has an opportunity to appeal. And the other thing about this, why this is a win for Elizabeth Holmes, is this kind of opens up the door here, right? Because you're putting Adam Rosendorf on the stand, asking him questions. Is there going to be some information that's going to come out that's going to help Elizabeth Holmes in her appeal? Is there going to be some information where Adam Rosendorf contradicts himself based on what he allegedly said in the driveway or in his subsequent declaration that was filed by the government to say Adam Rosendorf in that declaration said he stood by his testimony? There wasn't anything inappropriate done by the government? But the defense has an opportunity to find out. So it's going to be very interesting what Adam Rosendorf says and testifies to on October 17th. So stay tuned for that. I wanted to also give you some other dates that are coming up. Now, again, the sentencing will be delayed sometime after October 17th. The parties have to get together and decide. The court threw out several possible dates starting in November, I think it was November 17th to January approximately 15th. Sometime in there is when it will probably be when Elizabeth Holmes is sentenced. But after this hearing, this one shot she has at a new trial being granted by this judge, and if this judge grants this new trial, that means he vacates her convictions and she gets a new trial. So the judge has also indicated that he's going to allow both sides to file a response that'll be due October 24th. So the week after this hearing, both sides have an opportunity to lay out their argument, their points, to try to have a last opportunity to persuade the judge to grant the motion for a new trial, if you're the defense, or to oppose the new trial if you're the prosecution. The judge also indicated that within 7 to 10 days after the hearing, so if I did my math right here, the judge will be giving us his decision on whether or not he's going to grant the new trial on or about October 31st to November 3rd. So at the outset, by November 3rd, we should know whether or not the judge is going to be granting Elizabeth Holmes a new trial based on the testimony, the alleged misconduct of the government, and whether or not Adam Rosendorf was being truthful when he testified or manipulated by the government when he testified in the Elizabeth Holmes trial. Okay, the last thing I want to say is those other two motions, the judge has said this morning that he's taking those under submission. So what that means is he does not need any further information. That means there will not be a hearing granted on what happened with the database, right, that allegedly contained all the patient results. That was one of the motions. It looks like the judge is just going to be making the decision based on the responses filed by both sides. There won't be a hearing on that. The other outstanding motion was the government changing their portrayal of the influence of Balwani, because in the Holmes case, they portrayed Balwani to basically have not much influence, and Elizabeth was the one who had the authority. But in the Balwani case, the defense alleges that the government portrayed the influence Balwani had, because Balwani was tried separately. The defense is alleging that the government portrayed the influence that Balwani had a lot of influence on Elizabeth Holmes. So opposite of what they portrayed the relationship in the Holmes case. On that motion, the judge is also not going to be granting a hearing. He's going to be making his decision based on the responses filed by both parties. Okay? So the main focus here is her one shot is what happens when Adam Rosendorf testifies, and anything could happen at that one-day hearing on October 17th. Was he truthful? Did he feel manipulated? So it could be a very short hearing where he gets up and says, no, no. The judge says, fine, we've inquired. I'll be making my decision. Both parties, you have an opportunity to file your responses. I'll issue my decision whether I grant or deny this motion for a new trial sometime late October, early November, based on what he said this morning. Okay, so that's my analysis. It's still a big win for Elizabeth Holmes to get that hearing. So stay tuned. We'll see what happens on October 17th when Dr. Adam Rosendorf gets back on the stand and tells us what happened. So thank you very much for watching. Please do leave a comment or question. I want to know what your analysis is. Hit that like button and please support my work by subscribing. Thanks again for watching.